I used to give the example in classes of wake up in the morning and laugh for 10 minutes and see what happens the rest of the day. So what happens if you wake up and go, ha, ha, ha. Well, gosh, think of this, the ventral vagal, this laughing, you're smiling, you're ha, ha. Even if it's not for anything funny, if you're just going through these motions of activity. And then notice what happens to people you don't even know. You're driving by them on the street. They pick up that vibration. They pick up that state. It's powerful. How about people who fall in love and you meet somebody you haven't seen in a while? Hey, Joni, wow, what's going on in your life? Oh, I have a new partner in my life. I couldn't tell. God, it was so obvious, right?
Yeah, somebody's glowing. You're glowing. Yeah.
Oxytocin, ventral vagal state. And the question is, are you going to be there perpetually? Are you going to be the honeymoon's going to last forever? No, you're going to go in and out of these states. You may even go in and out during the day. You go into sympathetic because I got to get up, driving the freeway. Woo! Got to pay attention. And then I'm going to come back in and get back in the ventral vagal state periodically. But noticing that, mindfulness, coming into where am I now? Where am I listening to this talk? Which state am I in? Right? It's a wonderful exercise. And then learning tools that work for you.
In today's busy world, how can we find the inspiration, knowledge, and energy to live a healthy and empowered life? If we balance and harmonize our mind, exercise our body, live according to the laws of nature, and connect to spirit, can we find a way to heal, become our authentic self, and live our purpose with love? I am your hostess, Amy Fournier, and welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite. Hey, welcome back to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. Can your cat heal you? What can you tell about somebody by just the tone and pitch of their voice? Aha, 2 questions to ponder. Well, you've heard me say before that it's very important in order for us to heal and have energy, not to mention stay looking and feeling young and vivacious. We must get a grip on the stress in our lives and the amount of fear and anxiety, and that includes the feeling of constant overwhelm that we often feel in society right now. So, how can we find practical ways to get a handle on these modern ways of living that many of us seem to be caught up in, but still remain in the real world and keep our day jobs? Well, I'm glad you asked, because today's show is with very popular repeat guest, none other than Dr. Cliff Oliver. Dr. Oliver has a strong background in the health sciences with a bachelor degree in nursing and a doctor of chiropractic. He's been in private practice for almost 4 decades, and he's currently located in California. He's also co-founder of the CHEK Holistic Lifestyle Coaching Programs. Back in his college days, Dr. Oliver shaped many surfboards, and he spent much time in the water. Now in his spare time, he's back at the ocean, but this time he's photographing the surfers, which he's extremely talented at, by the way. Not to mention he's an amazing musician and all-around beautiful human being. So I am so thrilled to have Dr. Oliver back on today's show. And I do want to point out, too, you might want to check out our first episode, which was back on number 19, Finding Your Purpose, Synchronicity, Coping with Stress and Anxiety, Music to Heal, and Celebrating What's Right in the World, as well as practical holistic health and lifestyle tips. And that was number 19 with Dr. Oliver. A lot of great complimentary information in that episode. But today's show, like I mentioned, we're talking about stress. It's so important and so timely. We get into the history of holistic health, as well as the current state of how integrative is current integrative medicine. An interesting take on it that I was actually a little surprised and concerned to hear about. And then we talk about a pervasive theme that I have found in my work in mental health and emotional health and fitness, as well as trauma recovery, is the critical ability for us to feel safe. The feeling of being safe is absolutely critical for us to heal and to thrive. And by the way, if you want more on that, check out episode 74, which I talk about painful emotions and dealing with emotional health and trauma in particular, which was, and I will say, my most personal and the hardest episode for me to record to date, because I get into some personal stuff. And that was episode 74 for more on feeling safe. And today we get into the nervous system, basically a quick 101 anatomy for you, just to understand how your body works, because you really can't understand stress and all the ramifications of what it does to your mind, body, spirit, unless you just have a little basic working understanding of your nervous system. And then we get into the Polyvagal theory, which is, wow, just monster of a theory that was coined and discovered by Dr. Stephen Porges, which is a relatively new theory that they have discovered, and how relevant that is when we talk about managing stress. And we get into the role of music, and in particular, I know you know listening to music is important. We've talked about that many times, and the power of the type of music you listen to control your mind, body, spirit. But Dr. Oliver shares with us that not only is it important what you listen to in your music, but playing a musical instrument is extremely effective in managing your stress. So, wow, I really learned so much from Dr. Oliver, like I always do. He's just a wealth of information. And most importantly, we get into practical, easy, free, and fast ways and little techniques that anyone, anytime, any place, anywhere can do to immediately help balance and regulate your nervous system and reduce stress. You know, my main goal is all about really trying to assimilate and translate all this amazing information I have from my guests for you, that you can say, all right, once you're done listening to the show, you can now apply it to your life so you actually can take action that gives you results. I'm all about that, because it's not enough to know something by theory. You have to be able to actually use it in your life. So I'm all about practical, easy, fast, and if it's free, even better. And we get into a whole bunch of really great techniques that I use myself to help manage stress. So let's balance our nervous system, reduce stress and anxiety, and live a healthier, more balanced, happy life.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I am so thrilled to have you back with us. Your episode, which was number 19, everybody, for those who want to check it out. Wow, it was such a powerful show. You shared so much of your wisdom with everybody, and it's a really popular episode. Can you please tell us a little bit of background about you before we get into today's show, just for those people that might not have heard 19 yet?
Great. I got my background went to San Diego State University, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, went from there almost directly into making surfboards. A little slide trip.
Little pivot.
But during that time, got really connected with the ocean and people in the community and the surf world. But then I ran into trouble with powers to be, OSHA, and all these people who didn't want you making surfboards in San Diego. And I ended up going back to school and becoming a chiropractor. And I got pointed in that direction because I was involved in the first holistic health conferences in the world. They were called the Mandala Conferences in the mid-'70s in San Diego. Met some fantastic people. One of them was John Thie, the founder of Touch for Health.
Wow.
Went up to visit him in Altadena, and he went, "You've got to go to school. You got to go to my school." So that was my next step. Went to Los Angeles Chiropractic College, got out, started private practice. Gosh, I hate to say this, almost in 1981. Whee!
And you look the same as when we met, which was what? That has to be at least, well, I've known Paul for 25 years. So, and I was in the first HLC group.
Yeah, I think that was 20 years.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
I think you actually look better.
Oh, good to hear.
Maybe it's Annie.
Oh, no, it could be.
Give her the credit.
I've been euthanized.
Oh my God. Well, I got to tell you, one of the things I love about the guests on my show is I really try to find people who practice what they preach. I mean, we are a result of the creed we profess, correct? Yes. I mean, so you are a living example of your mindset, of your lifestyle, of everything that you are. So props to you. I'm giving you a high five right through the screen. That's amazing, amazing. And you're still going strong.
Still going, practice 2 days a week.
Yep.
It's mainly all online now, which is good. I have clients in India, Singapore, Northern Europe, West Coast, East Coast, Australia, all over the world now. So that's good. And do basically lifestyle management, how to get healthier, how to live stronger, longer.
Yes. And right now you're in California, right?
I am. We're in La Jolla, California. So it's by San Diego. A beautiful community. Mm-hmm.
Well, I can profess to your knowledge, as I mentioned in the introduction that everybody heard. I mean, you have an extensive, diverse knowledge about health, and you were just a key part of the CHEK Institute development of their whole nutrition lifestyle program training that trains professionals, and now they train just the regular folks too through their online offerings. But you were a big, big part of that curriculum and content.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the holistic lifestyle coaching really came about because the physical part has sort of reached I don't want to say dead end, but there was a finite amount of what you could do with that. And then it became apparent to Paul that really needed something more. And then we ran into each other at the beach.
Yeah.
God love it.
Perfect.
Beach, I'm photographing pelicans. And I look over and see Paul sitting with Bill Timmons, who was very much involved with biohealth diagnostics. And we met up. He asked me what I was doing. I said, metabolic typing in my office. He came over, had it done. And went, oh my gosh, we got to do this. We got to, bring this to the people. And that was the start of it. So that was in the 90s.
And in the 90s. And the thing is that was the first of its kind. I mean, you guys were pioneers. You guys were rebels, because at that time in the 90s, it was all about personal training, moving iron in the gym, and everybody, men, women, different workouts. And nobody looked at the holistic picture. Nobody looked at the lifestyle. Nobody looked at how are you sleeping? Are you drinking water? What's your diet like, other than, some wacky shakes and whey protein and all that? But nobody was certainly not certifying people in that regard. And there was a lot of, I remember, because that's, I was right with you at the beginning of all that too, but there was a lot of discord about the rights, if you will, of these quote unquote personal trainers bringing nutrition into the equation if they had, really the knowledge and ability to do so. But I mean, people eat, right? How could you not? And your message with Paul was how you're responsible to address what they're eating. Otherwise, you're actually making them worse.
Absolutely.
If you look at their fuel.
Right. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
And a lot of trainers back then, I think there's been quite a shift, but it was harder. It was like, how much more can we get by putting in more input when they were paying attention to the fuel that was going into the system, right? Or what was happening in the maintenance to the system, or the repair of the system, it was pretty dramatic. And the big debate then was, well, should I do super slow or should I do HIT? High intensity, short. What? And then they were debating that. Nobody was talking about, well, how are we feeding these people?
Yeah.
How are we getting them to sleep? What are we doing with that?
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a great experience. I mean, my background at the Holistic Health Conferences was mind, body, spirit. And the very first conferences, like say in the mid-70s, the big debate was, what is holistic? Is it WHOL or is it WHOL? Right? Is it the whole person or is it holistic? Is it spiritual based? And that was the debate. And the one that won was HOL, right? Holistic, mind, body, spirit. Seems to be kind of ignored to a large degree in the integrative medicine world of today. Where they kind of co-opted and said, well, we're integrating now. We do some herbs, we do this, but nobody listens to the client. Nobody listens to the patient. It's not spiritually based at all. And it's not very mentally, it's not very emotionally based. It's still really stuck in the physical level.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because honestly, I was not aware of that. I have kind of been encouraged thinking, okay, yes, we're getting more integrative. People are, doctors and physicians are starting to think a little more holistically, like there's hope, we're going in the right direction. I didn't realize that they don't, or a lot of them don't really incorporate the emotional, spiritual as well. Is that what you're saying?
Not at all.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I think it's been brought out dramatically this last 2 years with the restrictions. And the hospital groups and the things you get in the mail that belong to 2 hospital groups and the stuff they send out has nothing to do with wellness. They don't even have you check your vitamin D levels. They have no concept of what wellness is. They have no concept of the holistic model of health. They're just pushing vaccines, this, that, and it's horrifying. And then what they're denying people of healthcare, well, it wasn't healthcare to begin with, so that's not a big loss.
It's sick care.
But what they really need to be doing is really, I mean, there's great studies that have come out that show the COVID problem, if I should use that word, but the problem at large right now is related to insulin resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Resistance, is that something probably could work on with lifestyle? Yes, it could. Do they help that? Do they mention it? Do they? No, not even a single soundbite. It's pretty horrifying. So I think we've taken a huge step backward personally at the major level, the institutions, the HMOs of the world. I think those people have taken a huge step back. But what's springing up is independent doctors, frontline doctors, different groups that are sprouting up that hopefully will implant and take over the system. Mm-hmm. I'm not real optimistic on that. And the reason I'm not is because in the mid-70s, there was 300, 400 doctors, nurses, myself. I was just finishing up a student at that time, showing up at these conferences, and everybody was so gung-ho. We're going to turn over the healthcare business. And within 3 years, that conference had almost vanished. And the people who were involved in it, who went back to their institutions, one instituted it, one was Dr. Paul Brenner, who went back and they wanted nothing to do with it. Right?
Why?
Too big a change. They were based on an insurance-based sick model. Yeah. I went to the work comp. I used to do some work for a big company in town. They have a couple trailer parks, and they wanted to have their employees looked at for prevention of work comp injuries. Says, oh, this is so easy. We can get them eating healthy, work comp, eating healthy, get the weight under control, And I presented to the insurance company. They didn't want to have anything to do with it because they needed clients. They didn't get hurt on the job so they could collect their insurance payments. It was crazy.
Just like hospitals. If you think about it, if they didn't have any patients, they wouldn't have jobs. They'd be out of a business.
Yeah. So one day, Paul Brenner drove away. Literally got in his van and drove away.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we're going to get into this today, and I'm so grateful to have you on the show to help share your knowledge and wisdom with us on how we can help ourselves, because people are learning that, if you want to be healthy, you have to study what healthy people do. Okay. The people that do get better, the people that do thrive, the people that do have the life that you want, what do they do? So we're in this big awakening right now as, humanity at large. And there's all these things coming to light, like you're mentioning, the corruption, the ulterior motives, the follow the money, like you said, the insurance companies. Who's really training these doctors who we are entrusting as the experts, as the authority with our lives? And we're just saying, okay, that's the doctor. They must know what they're doing. They went to medical school. And I really believe that many of them truly do want to help. They truly would never intentionally hurt somebody, but they're only being trained a certain way. And, there's a whole nother discussion as to what information is being suppressed, like you said, because I always thought it was kind of weird that when this whole pandemic hit, that where's the information on being healthy? It was all about, oh, don't worry, we have a vaccine coming that will save everybody. There was nothing about sleep, water, get in the sun, be around people you love, all that stuff. It was absolutely missing. If that wasn't a huge red flag, I don't know what wasn't.
Completely. Yeah. Well, you mentioned you want to be healthy, follow people who are healthy. Mm-hmm. That brings us up to a good point of our talk today. So I was going to talk about the autonomic nervous system and the polyvagal theory. And one of the aspects of that is about co-regulation. Co-regulating, that means how you react, I react. It's like I learn from you, you learn from me. And when we're co-regulating each other, we feel safe. When we feel safe, we're in this ventral vagal state. We'll talk about all what this means, but when we're in that state, we're feeling safe, and we promote health within ourselves. And the last many years have just done the opposite of that. They've isolated people. They won't let them go on the beach. They put them in a mass. They can't follow somebody else. They can't learn from somebody else. They can't learn in a classroom. They can't see the mouth movements. They can't connect. So they're even more isolated. They feel less safe, and they end up in these altered states. Sympathetic nervous system takes over, or they become very depressed. So absolutely, way back in the day, was it NLC with, what am I trying to think of? Frogs to Princesses, NLP, Neuro Linguistic Program. Yep. The big buzzword was match and mirror. So you match somebody and you mirror them, and then you're in co-regulation with them, which is the buzzword of now in the Polyvagal. But back then we called it matching and mirroring. And if you did that, you would feel bonded. Oh my gosh, what a concept. So it's been around a long time. Unfortunately, it's gotten really torn apart the last several years. Isolation, masking, and the damage that's being done is outrageous. So that's a nice little lead into this subject for today. But you want to dive in on it?
I do, because just to take a step back with a broader picture, and then I'm going to have you just please educate us. But just a reminder to folks that, the nerves of our body, our nervous system, controls how we communicate, not only with each other, but also within our body parts. Okay, so true health and mental health, not just physical health, but total health, requires a management of your nervous system. And I've said this in many shows before, we can't heal and restore and anti-age and all that kind of stuff if our nervous system is constantly jacked up. So what you're going to share with us today is about this theory called the Polyvagal theory, which I know you're going to break it down, which talks about how the nervous system, how the branches of our nervous system co-regulate and balance each other. And not only within ourselves, but what you're saying about co-regulation is being in resonance with the other human beings around us, in that we have developed to pick up cues, facial cues, body cues, even tone of voice cues.
That's one of the most important of all.
From each other that regulate or deregulate our nervous system, which is another way of saying either stresses us out or doesn't stress us out. So these are very, very powerful determinants of our health that we have to be aware of. So please explain to us how the nervous system works, what the branches are, and please talk to us about polyvagal theory.
Perfect. Well, you mentioned a really good thing. I mean, about the nervous system, it's always on guard, right? And it's subconscious level. In fact, it's preconscious. It's like started wombish. So when the first cells are getting together, they're starting this network. And Stephen Porges is the founder of Polyvagal. And he's written many books. He has many interviews out there. But his main theory about this polyvagal was about safety. And he coined a word that really fits into what we're talking about in your description just gave. And it's called neuroception. Neuroception. I love that. Neuro like nerve. Inception. What's it receiving? What's it receiving internally and externally? And what's it receiving that puts us into a certain state? The state of fear, state of anxiety, stressed out, or self-regulating, co-regulating, peace, in love. What is that message? And what's so amazing about this is totally in the background. It has nothing to do with consciousness. It has nothing particularly to do with awareness, although that can play a role. But it's working 7/24 to keep you safe, to keep you in a space. Neuroception, I love that word. So it's checking in. Even before you can think of it, even if you saw something coming at you that's going to hit you, it's already dialing it up and responding to it. So I like that. So let's just take a little step back on the polyvagal. And Stephen Porges, that's the founder. He's written many books. I've got some I sent you in the bibliography for today's
They'll be in the
talk.
show notes. They'll be in the show notes. Right. Yep.
So his kind of claim to fame is that he took the vagus nerve and he broke it down. So originally when I was in school, and we used to teach this in the CHEK Institute, was there's two part of the autonomic nervous system. There's a sympathetic and a parasympathetic, and it's like a teeter-totter. When one goes up, one goes down. So if we have sympathetic, that's kind of get up for the day, go about your activity. We can speed it up by doing activities. We can take coffee. We can do all these different things to speed up. We can jump off buildings and really speed it up. Or we can be in fear of a virus running around and really speed it up. When that one's going, the other one gets depressed. That's the parasympathetic. We always would think of parasympathetic as rest and repair. That was mainly digestion, things recovering, making new body systems. So we had this kind of dualistic model. What Porges did, and what's interesting about this, he mainly was working with autistic children. And why are they not feeling safe? Why are they holding hands over their ears? And why are they withdrawing? And he, during these studies, came to the conclusion that there's not just this teeter-totter going on. It's not sympathetic, parasympathetic, but it's really much more like a ladder. And this ladder consists of, at the baseline, the dorsal vagal nerve, which preceded all parts of the nervous system. All reptiles have this part of the nervous system. It's in the gut. It's from the diaphragm down. It's unmyelinated. It's historically ancient. Some people say 500 million years old, this system. Dorsal vagal. When it works, and it's just going about its daily activities, digesting your food, it's repairing, that kind of thing. But in this hierarchy, this ladder, the next step of historically time frame was the entrance of the sympathetic. So again, instead of teeter-totter, we've got a dorsal vagal, gut, diaphragm down, unmyelinated, slow working nerves. Primary input is to the brain. The next part was diaphragm, was the sympathetic. This is this fight or flight. This is the one that get up and go. This is the one that can make you run away or fight. Whatever activity you're doing can make you concentrate, go faster, harder. So that was the sympathetic. So that comes on later in the gestation of the fetus. So we first get this dorsal vagal form, then we get this sympathetic, and then late in gestation, and then in the first several years of life, the third phase is starting, and that's the ventral vagal. So we have dorsal vagal, sympathetic, and this ladder in the top we have ventral vagal. Ventral vagal is enhanced and formed when we start bonding with mother, when we're nursing, when they stroke the head. So now we're co-regulating. How's a baby when a baby goes wee, and the mother's wee, and everybody's like co-bonded, right? They're co-regulating and they're bringing love and compassion. And that state is where major healing occurs. That's where we feel good. That's where we feel connected. That's where we feel in community. That's feel like we're on top of the world. That's when we're in the state of flow. Oh, don't just love that word. That's when we're in the state of flow.
That's my word of the year.
Exactly. It's a wonderful word. Flow. So now we've got this ladder. And then one of the beauties, again, of the polyvagal is where on the ladder are we moment to moment? Just as an observation. And that brings in the whole skill of mindfulness. In mindfulness, we tend to not judge, we tend to notice. Geez, I'm kind of amped up. My heart's racing. What state would that be in? Let's see. That could be the sympathetic state. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. How many people are stuck there these days? And then the dorsal vagal. What happens when the dorsal vagal takes over our lives and we become depressed? It's the lower end. It's like withdrawing from society. Oh gosh, we're forcing people to do that. What about all these little kids? What about all the kids committing suicide? They're being cut off. They're not in ventral vagal states at all. They're being wounded they're feeling completely unsafe.
And disconnected.
Isolated. So they go into this isolation. They end up on the couch. They end up on some sort of media device, but not connecting. They're not face to face. They're not co-regulating. They're not self-regulating. They're not feeling safe.
How about the elderly? And the elderly are super isolated.
Super isolated. It's one of the most horrific things, closing churches, closing community halls. Was one of the worst things. So in this polyvagal, we've got 3 steps we can go into. What's interesting about this is that different groups of people, like chiropractors, trainers, have dabbled in about how to use this, how we can help enhance people's well-being by noticing where they are. But the group that's really taken over is the psychotherapists. They love this. Psychotherapists love this ladder idea. They love noticing where people are. they love it because their statement that really is an amazing one. So if we just back up for a second to the CHEK program, some of your clients don't know about it, but in the holistic lifestyle coaching, we had the 6 foundational factors. And number 1 was thoughts. Number 2 was breathing. 3 was hydration. 4 was food. 5 was exercise. 6 was sleep regulation. Well, number 1 was picked for a reason. Pick that one specifically because thoughts tend to drive how you behave. So if you got crappy thoughts, you end up in a crappy mood. If you have stressful thoughts, you end up stressed out. Well, interestingly enough, the polyvagal people don't look at it that way. They look at it that the state your system is in drives your story. So the state, your autonomic nervous system, the state of this neuroception, the state that is taking in all these cues from your environment, from your internal review, that's driving your story. Geez, I feel anxious. Wait a minute. What's driving that? Oh, my system is stuck in my sympathetic state. My state is driving my story. So if there are our thoughts, it obviously goes both ways. But I love the concept. If we can work on state, we can change our story. Right? So if I can modify my state and what state I'm in, my story changes. If I can work on going from dorsal vagal to sympathetic to ventral vagal, my story's going to change to optimism. Oh my gosh. I mentioned earlier in our little talk before we got online about 2022, and I was pretty optimistic about it because I love the numbers. But why does it make me feel that? Well, it puts me in a ventral vagal state. It puts me in a state of wanting to connect with people, to bond with people. So it's a powerful, powerful, different way of looking at it. So Deb Dana has written a lot about this. Deb Dana has a wonderful book on it, The Polyvagal Theory. It's mainly for therapists. It's mainly for psychotherapists. But what I love about it is it's not so much about talk therapy. It's about making them feel safe by action, by how we sit, by our facial expressions, by the sound of our voice.
Body language.
Body language. So they're about, back to NLP, they're about matching and mirroring. They're getting in positions so that the person feels a bond with them and then teaching them how to observe their state, mindfulness, how to change their state by glimmers and triggers, what triggers you into this state, what makes you change out of the state, and how can we change that? So in the Buddhist Brain, the wonderful book by Hanson, Dr. Hanson, he talks about these neural pathways in our brain. When we habituate certain activities, these neural pathways get bigger and bigger and bigger. So if we habitually respond to our environment with stressful actions, our nervous system, that becomes the dominant factor. So we end up in a sympathetic mode. And then one day, all of a sudden, our blood pressure's up. And we end up at the ER, the doctor's office, and say, oh, you have high blood pressure, let's put you on a beta blocker. Just the thought of it just is starting to chuckle. But it's so sad. So they go in with a 5-minute appointment, they take your blood pressure, say, oh, your blood pressure's high, you need a beta blocker. Oh, you're not sleeping tonight, you need Xanax. What are those two things? They're block the sympathetic nervous system. Well, why are you stuck in that sympathetic side? Why aren't you ever in ventral vagal? Why aren't you connected with your group, your people? Why aren't you self-safety imposing that on yourself? What aren't you bringing into your environment? So, big one. So anyhow, Deb Dana, so I mentioned already, she has this wonderful little flip chart.
I have that.
Highly recommend it, right? Just a nice little flip chart, kind of goes through the little ladder versus the teeter-totter, and talks about what happens in each one of those states. It's wonderful.
Is that one of the resources that you gave us to put in the show notes?
It is.
Beautiful. Okay, everybody, you can find that. I have that. It's great. It's very user-friendly, too.
Exactly. And then Deb Dana, her main book is, look at that, Polyvagal Theory.
Deb Dana. Okay.
Here it's primarily built for psychotherapists.
Practitioners, yeah. But it's very understandable. I mean,
Totally understandable. It's got little sheets. You can do worksheets on it. Yep. And she also teaches a class through Sounds True, a online class. You can just sign up and take it. It's pretty basic, but it's great, right? If you were looking at it from a trainer point of view, though, somebody who's in training, you might want to look at more dramatic ways of impacting these different systems. You might want to, as a trainer, bring somebody into this parasympathetic state, this ventral vagal. You might want to move them out of overload with the workouts. So we would talk about work in, work out, these kinds of things. But there's different amazing types of items for that. One of them has to do, again, back to the ventral vagal, has a lot to do with the diaphragm up, and it has a lot to do with respiration, heart rate, the vagal brake, they call it. But it has a lot to do with facial recognition, sound. What's the sound? What's your voice? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? Again, neuroception is how are you taking all that in to feel safe? Do you feel safe?
Okay. So if we could just take a pause, because I'd like to just lay a little groundwork for the regular person who might not have any anatomy experience, or is certainly not in the health profession, or a physical trainer or a health coach or any of that stuff. We have the nervous system, which is basically in different branches: the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, and the enteric nervous system. Everybody knows the sympathetic nervous system, as you mentioned, is the fight or flight one that we've all heard about. It's the get up and go, the catabolic hormones, it's the mobilization of cortisol. But it also will decrease your immune system function, decrease your growth and repair, decrease your sex drive, decrease your digestion, and decrease your ability to see the big picture in things and take in all the information. Because when you're in a stressed state, I mean, if you think of your sympathetic nervous system being activated, it's like if you almost get in a car accident. You're driving down the street and you hit some ice and your whole body lights up. Boom, you have tonal focus, and like your heart rate goes up and you're just hyper alert. That's the state of the sympathetic nervous system. So the opposite of that is the parasympathetic. And like you mentioned, these are like a teeter-totter that are meant to balance each other out, as the body in its innate wisdom knows how to do, how to harmonize itself. There's normally a self-regulating balance. Now that can get deregulated by medications, pills, drugs, and a lifestyle that's super stressed out. Or if right now you're living in fear, like so many people are, they have an undercurrent of anxiety and fear of this invisible boogie virus that might kill you, or you might kill someone else. So there's this pervasive chronic fear state, which keeps us perpetually elevated in our sympathetic nervous system, which will decrease our sex drive, decrease our ability to fight aging prematurely, decrease our immune system, which is so ironic, decrease our creativity, and disrupt our sleep and our blood sugar. So the balancing parasympathetic nervous system increases our anabolic hormones, which is the growth and repair, and increases our digestion, our ability to relax, and all the hormones we like: the melatonin, which helps us sleep, the DHEA, the human growth hormone, and the testosterone. And what you're saying is the vagus nerve, which is called the vagus nerve because it's from the Latin root, which vagar, to wander, like the wandering nerve. It's the largest nerve in the body that comes from the brainstem and goes into all the different organs, and it's the one that is involved in the parasympathetic, the rest side of our nervous system. So it's balancing out all that stress. And how this gets communicated with other people, like I mentioned, we are communicating our feelings through our nervous system and through our facial expressions, our body postures, our gestures, and of course other things. But the vagus nerve is controlling the way we're communicating with each other. If I say, "Oh, you're such a jerk," you might all of a sudden squint and look at me and your mouth will go down. This is a communication that your facial expressions from your vagus nerve, of your emotional input to what I just said to you, reacts. So when we have masks on and all these different things, that's going to affect our ability to read each other, to interpret each other, communicate, which, what do you know, also affects our ability to feel connected with another person. And like you said, the fancy word co-regulate, which is be in resonance with other people. So there's this whole system going on of how we evolved as human beings that we are now really screwing up because we're just dismantling the whole thing.
Dramatic.
Yep, whether it be by, injections and shots and so-called vaccines, or our lifestyle of being perpetually stressed out, we're totally dismantling this whole part of ourselves. So please take it from there.
Yeah, I know it's dramatic. The thing that's so cool about the polyvagal is they're breaking it down into blocks where you can understand it, right? You can understand the dorsal vagal is diaphragm down, it's myelinated, it's slow moving. Then you move up the chain, you end up with this ventral vagal, and it's facial, it's the heart, it's the breathing. And then if you think about this, well, if I want to change my state, if I want to change the state of my nervous system, I can take items within this area and I can exercise. I can start using them. I can say, okay, I'm depressed, I'm down on my whatever, lack of whatever. And I used to use the example in the HLC courses of a group in San Francisco where they took people who are gravely depressed. We would now say they were in dorsal vagal states, and they made them smile for 30 minutes. And by smiling for 30 minutes, lo and behold, they became undepressed. Now, these are hospitalized people. The problem was they couldn't get them to smile for 30 minutes. So they taped them up. And just taping them up into that position.
Tape their faces up, yeah.
In a smile, because we're hardwired when we hold these positions or movements that we start releasing these endorphins, these brain chemicals, and we become in these ventral vagal states. So it's pretty dramatic how powerful this is, and it works just the opposite way. But remember growing up when your parents said, don't talk to me that way, right? It's the tone of the voice. They were totally clued into your tone of voice, and if they were thought about it, if they knew anything about it, they would go, geez, I can tell what state they're in.
For sure.
Like, instead of thinking they're just back talking to me, because they're clearly saying don't use that tone of voice.
Mm-hmm.
When the polyvagal, they call it prosody. Prosody is the word they use for variance in tone of voice. Prosody. I love that word. So when I first got in practice in the early 80s, I was hooked up with a couple hotels in La Jolla, and they would have visitors come, they'd get hurt carrying their luggage in, and they would give them my name, and they would call me up. They want me to come do like a house call at the hotel. And I was going, just listening to my phone, I realized really early on, gosh, I could tell exactly what's wrong with them. Is it serious? Is it bad? And at first I didn't really connect with it's the tone of the voice that's telling me everything about them. Are they super stressed out? Are they anxious? What's going on? And just listening to the tone of the voice. Well, that's one of the big clues in polyvagal, the tone of the voice. There was a lady here in San Diego years ago, got millions of dollars from the government at UCSD to study tonal pitch. And is perfect pitch something that is a rare talent, or is it something that somebody can learn? After millions of dollars of research, she came to the conclusion that it's rare. Only people like Barbara Streisand, very few people, 1 in 100,000 people have perfect pitch. So hearing these pitchal tones is a rare thing to really be precise about it. So big article in the Union, front page of the paper, this study shows perfect pitch is a rare item. People wrote into the editor and said, did you ever check anybody out who grew up in an Asian language where it's tonal dependent on what it means by the tone, the pitch of the word? No, she never did. But turns out in languages where pitch is important to the meaning, people have perfect pitch.
There you go.
Holy smoke. So that means it's all learned. It's learned in utero. You're starting to get these cues in utero. We know that kids who are stressed out while they're in the womb, they end up with longer legs, shorter torsos, less brains, so they can run faster, harder. They can be in a sympathetic mode. So we can track that stuff. So people, it's just a great tool. Facial expression, what you're hearing, eye movement, eye motion, is just so powerful. And by doing that, if we were to cue in and say, gosh, I'm really stressed out today, I'm feeling anxious, I don't know if I can sleep tonight. And then we could say, well, how could I get into more of this ventral? How could I stimulate my parasympathetic? How could I get to a place where it's really starting to come online? Well, Xanax? No, that's blocking, right? That's like taking this drug or beta blockers or whatever. So are there activities that do that? Well, it turns out there's lots of activities that do that. Things that people can do every day. There's way you breathe. If you breathe out longer than when you breathe in, you go into parasympathetic state. So if you breathe in for the count of 4 and out for the count of 6, you automatically become more parasympathetic. So there's wonderful things. If you use your lips and do purr sounds, they know that cats sitting on somebody's chest purring heals them from all sorts of diseases. People have been healed from almost every disease known by man by a cat laying on his chest purring.
All right, I know what I'm getting for Christmas.
So you think about this. So a cat purring on chest, what is cat purring on my chest? That's kind of like, well, I'm co-regulating with this cat, aren't I? I'm kind of like in tune with this cat. He's purring, I'm kind of internally purring, and crazy things happen.
Very rhythmic.
Because I'm in this parasympathetic ventral vagal, connected to this animal. It's so powerful.
On so many levels. The power of sound has just been blowing my mind. I have an amazing episode with Ian Morris with Listening to Smile. I've become a real believer in the sound vibration as healing or not. It goes in both directions. And speaking of both going in both directions, if you could talk a little bit about how, yes, it's a two-way street. And I'll just add, too, that a lot of singers study toning their vagus nerve in order to achieve the proper tone and pitch and all that. But it's interesting how it's a two-way thing, because the vagus nerve, because it's a vagus and it connects to so many different organs and the kidneys and all this stuff. I mean, actually, I'll just share some of the things that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that I understand the vagus nerve is responsible for. Regulates blood sugar, blood pressure, releases testosterone, releases bile, promotes healthy function of the kidneys, assists in saliva secretion, helps prevent inflammation, which is huge, and it has a role in memory and emotions, and also sweating, moving the tongue for speech, like you've been mentioning, and keeping the larynx open so we can breathe and basically swallow. So people a lot of times with swallow problems, it might be a vagal nerve problem. And peristalsis, which is, it's the key nerve in the gut-brain nerve connection. So what I'm getting at is these are all two-way streets. So to your point, like we can kind of back our way into regulating ourselves and in other words, controlling stress by maybe approaching it from the gut to go up to the vagus nerve by good bacteria in our diet and getting the junk out of our diet to help that one way, and then, you know, doing horse lips like, or the purring from the vocal back down. So it's a two-way thing. There's different ways we can help balance our nervous system by all these different techniques, depending on what organ you're functioning and what you're actually doing. Do I have that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like say, mainly the vagus nerve goes up to the brain. I think it's like 80%, something like that, goes upward. So it's going to the brain, and about 20% goes out from there.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it's this biofeedback device, great biofeedback device. If you look at the gut, I mean, there's so many conditions that have to do with this altered sense. I mean, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, is like the classic. You have IBS D or C. Are you constipated or you have diarrhea? What is going on? Well, gosh, it's so amazing when people start getting their parasympathetic nervous system back in line, that a lot of this stuff goes away when you start getting balanced. How about heart rate? How about blood pressure? High blood pressure. So the vagus nerve acts as a brake. So people's heart rates that tend to go up over time, oftentimes it's because this brake is no longer working. Vagal brake. It's no longer slowing the heart rate back down. I mentioned children when they're first born, their sympathetics develop, the dorsal vagal, the ventral vagal is coming online. So as they get older, the heart rate comes back down. This vagal brake's getting stronger as they're co-regulating. So they're becoming safe with their infant, and they're being held, they're being nurtured, they're being cuddled. Yeah, so it's great. And then again, for this self-help people out there, I can't think of a better way to bring harmony into your life than looking at this polyvagal model and learning routines and actions and behaviors that enhance it to your well-being. And when they enhance it to your well-being, who wins from that? I used to give an example in classes of wake up in the morning and laugh for 10 minutes and see what happens the rest of the day. So what happens if you wake up and go, well, gosh, think of this, the ventral vagal, this laughing, you're smiling, you're even if it's not for anything funny, if you're just going through these motions of activity. And then notice what happens to people who you don't even know. You're driving by them on the street. They pick up that vibration. They pick up that state. It's powerful. How about people who fall in love and you meet somebody you haven't seen in a while? Hey, Joni, wow, what's going on in your life? Oh, I have a new partner in my life. I couldn't tell. God, it was so obvious, right?
Yeah, somebody's glowing. You're glowing. Yeah.
Oxytocin, ventral vagal state. And the question is, are you going to be there perpetually? Are you going to be the honeymoon is going to last forever? No, you're going to go in and out of these states. You may even go in and out during the day. You go into sympathetic because I got to get up, driving the freeway. Woo! Got to pay attention, and then I'm going to come back in and get back in the ventral vagal state periodically. But noticing that, mindfulness, coming into where am I now? Where am I listening to this talk? Which state am I in? Right? It's a wonderful exercise, and then learning tools that work for you. Personally, if you mentioned purring sounds, gargling, deep gargling with water is a powerful parasympathetic stimulant.
Stimulates the larynx, which is the vagus nerve connection.
So one of the tools people use for diagnosing sympathetic, parasympathetic imbalances, especially the vagus nerve, is looking in the mouth and looking at the uvula dangling down that little thing at the back of your throat. And does it hang evenly? Or is it being pulled to one side or the other?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if you just open your mouth and go, while somebody looks, and the thing's dangling over here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that this whole brainstem, the whole area where the vagus nerve comes out, is being compromised.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you can do a little simple thing. If people
Yes.
listen to do a simple thing, if they were to turn their head one way as far as they can, gently, the other way as far as they can, notice where the discomfort is. Is it tighter on one side or the other? That's a cue that these cranial nerves aren't functioning well.
Oh, God, I'm definitely tighter on one side.
Yeah, and so you can do this simple little exercise. So you can just sit there, keep your head going forward, and turn your eyes to that side. So just sit there going forward.
To the tight side.
Yeah, just turn your eyes to the side without leaning in. Just hold it there. And if you were to hold your eyes there, just hold them there. 30 seconds maybe. While you're doing that, your body, if it was to shift into the parasympathetic mode, if it was, just keep holding it out.
Okay.
Keep walking. If it was to shift, you would notice something happen. And the most noticeable thing is oftentimes a deepening of the breath. So
I just did that. Yeah.
Yeah. I personally, because I do this a lot, I notice I yawn. I go, oh yeah.
Well, I just felt more relaxed. My whole body kind of dropped a little. Uh-huh.
But now turn your head again and see if it feels the same.
Oh, no. I have much more range of motion. Oh, that's crazy. Just by looking my eyes to the right for 30 seconds.
A whole series of nice exercises.
That's insane. How easy is that? Come on.
The eyes, the sound, this uvula thing dangling down there, horse lips, gargling, just wonderful things. Say, gosh, I've been so depressed for a while. Let's see, could I gargle? Oh.
Yeah. Or I'm so stressed out I can't sleep. One of the things that I've been doing is singing. And you taught me about humming years ago. You said, so I just, I'm a big fan of sticky notes. So what I do is what I want to adapt a new behavior or a new thought pattern or something, I'll just write it on a sticky note and just put it around where I can see it until it becomes automatic for me. So now I took down the sticky note because guess what? I sing all the time. I mean, even if it's just for a few minutes, I'll just making lunch or whatever, I'll just start singing. If I don't know a song, I'll make it up. Because I'm thinking, all right, I'm toning my vagus nerve. I'm balancing my nervous system. It makes me feel good. I don't care what it sounds like. Charlotte wonders what's going on, but it's all good.
So one of my favorite things way back, many years ago was Brain Gym. So Brain Gym was about doing these activities, crossing the midline, drawing these circles, doing the elephant, doing the owl, and doing these different things. And so in the NLC programs, I'd have people sit there and do their eyes go in a circle? Or can they make a circle with their eyes? No. Well, what part of their brain's not connecting to the polyvagal, to their cranial nerves was not doing that. So that was the point of doing these circles with the eyes. So one of the things that I've come across fairly recently that I love for getting these bilateral activities, I used to teach the diamond gate walking exercises. So walking with crossing patterns, and diamond gate, you can check it online. But it's these crossing patterns are so powerful for integrating both sides of the brain, especially since in our society, we learn to read early. Steiner's school system, Waldorf, they learn to read later because of the brain development. You learn early, you end up left brain dominant, particularly that's analytical, A, B, C, D, read in a box, read a sentence, then you get to move on. But we forget the other side of the brain, the creative, the forming ideas and colors and expansive. So in Waldorf, they're painting big things out of the box. They're doing rhythmic exercises, but not in our school system. Now we're isolating the kids, sitting them apart, masked up. You can't see faces. They can't connect them, feel safe. So one of the exercises I like a lot is these rope flows.
Oh. Okay, he's holding up a rope for those listening.
Holding a rope for those of you can't see, but it's a rope, kind of a thick, heavy rope, and you do exercises, dun, dun, round and around.
Like a lasso.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but it's held like a jump rope, but you don't jump, and you just twirl it around in different directions, circles.
Fun.
Behind you. This one's from David Weck. David Weck, I was introduced to many years ago. Here in San Diego, as a trainer, and invented the Bosu ball. So most people know the Bosu ball, that half ball.
Half a Swiss ball,
Yep, and he got into this some years ago. I got into it just recently. Philippines is great. Lots of people in the Philippines do videos, and in Finland, of all places. But it's great because it's doing these crossing patterns. It's integrating, it's crossing the corpus callosum. It's giving you more creativity in your ability to open your focus. So that's another good thing you should bring up.
So what you're saying is the idea is to cross the midline of your body, like where your nose and your belly button is, from the right to the left side, which will help to connect the right and left hemisphere of the brain.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So these are exercises to do that. Okay, excellent.
So I discovered early on, I used to play a lot of heavy-duty racquetball in the early 80s, 70s. And what we would do is we'd do occasional warm-ups with the opposite hand, the dominant hand. So when I worked with the Porges for a while, one of the members of them, one of the great players, was a switch hitter. He would go and and the thing I noticed right away with him, his muscle activity on both sides was balanced.
That's crazy. That's really hard to do.
Yeah, exactly. And this promotes that. And it's fun to do. So I photograph a lot. I photograph beach and surfers. When I'm in between set waves, I'm out there with my rope. Dun, dun, dun,
Oh, that's cool.
when doing my different activities. But it's such a good one for bringing in this integration of these sides of your brain.
That's like the cross crawl, right? The cross crawl.
Like the cross crawl, it's fun.
Okay. Yep.
It's really
Okay.
fun to do.
Remember that. I used to do that one with my
little
dad.
ladies do it. They're sitting in their chair. They can't even walk. Their hips are bad. They can swing the rope.
Yep. Or lift up the right arm, left leg, lift up the left arm, right leg in a rhythmic fashion to help balance the brain. I love it. You know, I just love these simple things we can do. They don't take long. They're not expensive. They're free, but they're a way that we can empower and heal ourselves. So great. So I want to share some more, just quickly, some tools we can do to help calm the nervous system down and help integrate and balance the vagus nerve. So increase your parasympathetic nervous system, which is the anti-stress. Deep breathing, chanting, especially the word singing, humming, quiet, which doesn't necessarily mean sleeping. It just means basically lack of stress, being still.
So that's an interesting one. Let's go back to humming real quick.
Oh, sure.
So humming, one of my favorite ones, which I got to learn from Deepak Chopra and David Simon, was so hum. So humming, hum is great, and it vibrates your lips and your tongue, but actually putting a word to it. So on the inhale, hum on the exhale, so hum. If you do that in your mind's eye, so hum, so on the inhale, hum on the exhale, you actually short inhale, long exhale, and it's great for deeply relaxing the body.
Yes.
it's
So the exhales longer than the inhales is key.
right. So when you go so, hum, so, hum, it's a powerful.
It is. Even just
Then you go
hearing
to
you say
sleep,
it.
you do power naps, everything. And then you can make these things even more, but by knowing this polyvagal, the tie in with the eyes, which you just noticed when we had you do your head turn. If you breathe in, you will notice that your eyes want to roll up, right? So if you just breathe in, and if you breathe out, you notice your eyes want to roll down.
Wow.
So when you're breathing out, you're going into parasympathetic, you're going into relaxation mode. Dr. Benson's relaxation clinic was all about the breath out and saying one. And you notice you start relaxing all the way down to the toes. So if you follow your eyes with the sound, with the breath,
I'm getting sleepy.
now connected three
Wow.
major tools in your body that you can actually physically own.
Right on. I love it. That's so great. I totally felt that, and especially the hum. Very powerful. Okay, so being in nature, unplugging from electronics is an obvious one. Being with animals, as you mentioned, taking a bath, massage, and particularly massaging your feet to pull it out of your head. And then can you talk about massaging the cranial nerve, the vagus nerve? So there's a part of the clavicle and the ear, right, to help stimulate the vagus nerve. What area of the body do we massage, self-massage?
It tends to be on the SCMs, the sides here. So in
the neck.
Ear therapy, the sides in here.
The strapping muscles of the neck.
Yep, right in that region, right in there. You can't miss it. And it's just light massage. It's not like we're doing deep trigger point therapy.
Okay.
They actually do implants. On the left side up in here, they do limb implants, electrical implants in medicine for epilepsy, for asthma, for some serious conditions. They do an electrical implant to affect the vagus nerve. Well, you do the same thing again by gargling, by humming, all these things. But you can do massage. I like this little device here. This thing's called a Z-Vibe. And it's this little device that's like it's
like a toothbrush.
And if you turn this, I don't know if you can hear this, but it buzzes.
No, we can't hear it.
Yeah,
it looks like a toothbrush.
Yeah, and it's vibrating now. I just turned it on. It's vibrating, very fine vibration, but very fast. You can put it on your earlobe and stimulate parts of the brain. You can come up inside the auricular area, and that's a vagus nerve stimulation point.
Of the ear.
Stimulate your lips, which are really tied into
your lips.
Nerve. You can stimulate them. So you just sit there and do this for a couple of minutes. You'll be shocked at how relaxing this is.
That's cool. Well, I know when I get a massage, one of my favorite things is when they do the ears. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Okay.
It brings up another good one about this massage. I don't know if you've had anybody on your program about havening. Havening is a therapy technique. Havening stands for safe haven. And it's a technique for putting your brain into delta wave states. So we have beta, here we are talking about that. Alpha, we're kind of in between states. We're getting relaxed. We're chilling out. We're about to go to sleep. And then we go deeper. And delta is a pretty deep brainwave state. Well, they found out that if you go into delta wave states, you can change your response to events in your life, like traumas.
Wow.
Car wrecks, abuse, whatever it is. You can get in a state. And what they found out is that you can get into this state while you're awake. And how do you do that? With touch. Rubbing your hands together gives a delta wave input of about 10%. So if you're just rhythmically rubbing your hands together, you're getting a delta wave input. So here we are. Delta waving, 10% increase delta. Wow, delta waves, a relaxed state. Delta waves, where you get safe. That's when you sleep. That's when you're doing deep repair work. If you were to do your arms, rhythmically arms, you get about a 30% increased delta waves.
So what he's doing is he's crossing his arms at his chest for those that are listening, and he's basically just rubbing himself from his shoulders down to his elbows, stroking gently, like he's just caressing himself, like soothingly, like brushing.
And I like to do it alternating. So I like alternating because that's bringing this bilateral activity in.
Ah.
And then face. If you do face, you can get up to 70-80% increased delta waves by doing your face.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yes, think about this. What do babies get all the time?
Touched.
They're touched. Their arms, they rub their arms.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Delta wave increase. So in delta wave states, again, polyvagal, vagus nerve, you can create all sorts of wonderful things in real time. You know, not 10 years of therapy.
No. And you can do it on a plane. You can do it when you're at a stoplight. You don't need any equipment. You don't need any mobility or any cardiovascular fitness. I mean, these are all very empowering tools. I love it. You're just such a wealth of knowledge.
So the reference for the people listening, Dr. Youngson, Yungson, Youngson, he's an anesthesiologist in New Zealand. Just go on his YouTube channel and look at his havening videos. He just came out with a new one by a stream. And he's just like almost precious. He's just so kind and gentle.
Wow.
You're just listening to him, you go, the guy's kind and gentle.
You can feel his compassion.
And he's going, and you're just going, you're just.
So just listening, you're getting healed.
Exactly. Precisely.
A lot of people have that power. Yep. Just being in their presence and just their energy and their vibe these are all very contagious, powerful forms of medicine we can share with each other. I'll just finish my list just so people can have complete options as to how they can calm themselves down and self-soothe. So in addition to massage, sleep, being embodied, nonlinear movement method, which is a type of training that I do. It's basically a way to just be in your body and check in and feel what you're feeling and let your body tell you how it wants to move. Calling a friend, so social connection, splashing cold water on your face, particularly your hairline. You've mentioned gargling, laughter, like you mentioned, is a big thing, laughing, and fasting, but most significantly, music. Listening to music. So speak to us about that, because I know you're going to share a very special treat for everyone listening and watching, your amazing flute.
So music is super powerful. Many years ago, I got hooked up with the music groups that did soundscapes. So Goldman was in on that. Several different books have been written about this, but music therapy became a pretty big item. And what they found out was that you could help control states by music, right? And if the music makes people feel safe, then they're going to be into these ventral vagal states where healing can occur. So one of these practitioners went through a whole hospital group in Denver, Colorado, and did soundscapes for each different department. So it was different for the rehab department than the emergency room. It was different for the hospice part of the hospital versus the repair. So they had different soundscapes for every part of the hospital. And they had tremendous results with healing. So lots of people came out with these different soundscapes. So you can now look online. Well, what would I like for pick-me-ups? Am I more classically oriented or whatever it is? So you can actually pick sounds out that help you control what's going on in your life. How cool is that? You can put them on a playlist.
Very logical.
Several years ago, a drummer for the Grateful Dead came to town, and they did a program about drumming in the brain. Is that
Bob Weir?
No, Mickey Hart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so he came and they hooked his brain up to this EEG, electroencephalogram, and they played it on the screen what his brain waves were while he was drumming.
Cool.
It was very cool. So we're just all sitting in the audience. Wow, this is amazing, Donald. And you see the brain lighting up here and there, totally integrating. Have to be both hands, all this stuff. Well, during this presentation, this doctor from Italy came and presented about soundscapes to people who had severe illness, like, mainly dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's. And what she did was she used these different sounds to show what the impact would be on people with severe cognitive, severe lack of memory, not autism, but Alzheimer's, and different types of memory issues. And she would play them soundscapes And mainly these were elderly people over 60, 67, 80, 90 years old. And some of them hadn't talked in 20, 30 years. Wow. Some of them were basically vegetables. And they played a music from their youth. And every one of them came out of it. Every one of them became present. Some of them so much so that they could walk around the room and go to the elevator when they could. They were totally non-functioning Alzheimer's people, and they all came out for periods of time while they played this music.
Oh my God.
After we got done with this, my girlfriend and I got out of this, we got to get our playlist together.
Right.
Before we forget what it is. But this other group of people she did was they would be walking in the hall, and they had pretty moderately severe Parkinson's with a shuffling gait, this leaning forward shuffle gait. Mm-hmm. They would play marching music, and lo and behold, they could walk normal.
Well, I mean, we're intrinsically born. I mean, when we're gestating in the womb, we're listening to the rhythm of our mother's heart. So even people who say they have no rhythm, they can't dance, like, no, you do, because you wouldn't be alive without the rhythm of your heart and the rhythm of your cells and all the fluids that pump in your body. The pumping is a rhythmic movement, a cyclical movement. So we're wired for rhythm. So I can see, and I mean, think about it when you're tired working out and a really good song comes on where the beat's faster, you're naturally going to move faster, you know, and if you're off beat, it feels wrong because I think we innately know, like, we have a sense of rhythm. You know, and it can get out of tune. It can need a little brush up, that's for sure.
One of the big challenges with music is people have been damaged.
Yes.
So been damaged not to sing, not to dance, not to voice in a rhythmic way. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that happened to me. I think it was in 4th grade or something in a play, and we were supposed to be singing, and the lady goes, Oliver, Janet.
Be quiet. Yeah, be quiet.
I go to my mom, wait a minute, I love this thing. We go Christmas.
Aww.
My mom goes, oh no, you're bad.
Like,
oh no.
Yeah.
So you can be wounded easily in these things.
Yes,
and these wounds last a long time, and they really shut down major parts of our creativity, our optimization, how we share our voice.
Our expression, our self-expression.
Right. I love the one Pete Seeger said. Pete Seeger, the folk singer, he's passed on, but he was great. You know, he had these big hootenannies, big sings, and he was in all the big events for, you know, the marches for freedom and things like that. He said, you know, these songs, every song you sing has lots of harmonies. And you know what a harmony is? It's that every note your neighbor's not singing.
Yeah.
Right? So for him, being out of pitch is just as good. You're in harmony.
The diversity, which is important, which is an interesting point, because one thing I learned on the show with Ian Morris, which is somewhere up in the 70s of numbers of episodes on my show, if people want to check it out, was he was saying how what happens too is in our culture, we kind of get pigeonholed to certain rhythms, like hip hop, jazz, or, you know, whatever. And there's all these different rhythm soundscapes that we should have access to on this huge scale of rhythm. And what happens is we get kind of, we tend to lose the ability to pick up new rhythms because we don't get exposed to them enough. So they go dormant almost. So the more diversity you expose yourself to, like on purpose, as part of your continual growth, expose yourself to different types of music, you know, Latin or jazz, or maybe flamenco guitar and Beethoven and different soundscapes, because what will happen is you're going to increase your vocabulary, your emotional vocabulary of vibrations that your body attunes to, and they all, like a different nutrient, like vitamin A in organic egg yolks is a nutrient in that, whereas you're going to get vitamin C from a red pepper. You know, these are all different nutrients. Well, sound is the same way. There's different nutrients we need to be exposed to. So there's an argument for getting diverse music in your ears to help your brain hit all the different scales of vibration that you need to be totally holistic and integrated.
Yeah, I've never seen it so dramatic as when I was traveling and teaching in the upper level classes. And I do this walking exercise. And it's a walking exercise that have people walk in rhythm. And this came from the work of, who was that? George.
Is that the Marching in Time book?
Yeah. Well, yes. No, this is something different. But they might have come across the same conclusion. but George Leonard, that's what I was trying to think of.
Okay.
But what I did was I'd have these groups do this walking exercise, and part of the exercise was to walk in rhythm with each other. And I would start them on walking and counting their steps together. And I would start them on 1, 2, left, right, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then I'd have them move to 1, 2, 3, 4. They would count these out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then at some point during this walking, marching in place together, if it was cold outside or walking out as together, I'd switch them to 3 counts, odd rhythms. So they go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So the one would switch sides instead of being always on the same side. So 1, 2, let's just say left is 1, left, right, left. So the 1, 2, 1, 2. Well, the crazy thing was when I went to different cultures, like in Scandinavia, and I'd have them doing the 1, 2, 1, 2, they would all merge together in one massive, like cohesive amoeba. 1, 2, 1.
Amoeba.
What I do in the States or the Western Hemisphere, they'd be going 1, 2, 3, 4, which is like a rectangle.
Yeah.
Which society changed to from left, right, having the, up, down, left, right, bright, dark, that kind of thing. Having a duality, they went to rectangles. That's where city blocks were formed. Marching was done. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do we find for armies march to 4 beats? So people would spread out and they would do that really well. Yet when I shifted to 1, 2, 3 odd time rhythms, groups would fall apart. Oh my gosh, I can't figure out which is 1. Wait, 1 shifted to the other side. Oh no. And half the class would be, and these are like trainers and coaches, they'd be like, freaking out that this 1, 3, this odd time rhythm, which they're not exposed to, like you're saying, from other cultures, they would just decoalesce. They wouldn't be walking in time anymore.
Well, I got to tell you, as a dance instructor, it was challenging for me because I was originally an athlete before I became a dance instructor, and to learn the syncopated beat and the downbeat. The downbeat was really hard for me to learn because it's basically what you're talking about. It's almost like that half beat before on the 1. Or like the cha-cha, you don't start on the 1, you're supposed to start in the 2. It's cha-cha 1, 2, 3, cha-cha 2, 2. And I know exactly what you're saying. It's really tricky. That's cultural then, is what you're saying.
Oh, totally. So, let's back up again on Polyvagal. When do kids learn the most? Before age 7. They can learn multiple languages if they're in a multi-language household, if they're multiple rhythmic. Who's the bass player? Victor Wooten. Victor Wooten's got this great thing people should look up on how to learn music. He's got this great...
I guess I have to look him up.
He wrote a great book, The Music Lesson. It's just great. But he talks about if you grow up in a family with musicians, you just start playing.
Oh, for sure.
It's
in your blood.
Instrument, because that's how you learn languages. And,
oh my God, I didn't know that.
But otherwise, you're like fumbling around. And that brings us to kind of an important one about music. One of the things about music that I love the most is Oliver Sacks, and many people have made the comment, listening to music is wonderful, but playing music is better. Well, why would it be better? You're bringing in your breath. Oh my gosh.
Your breath. Okay.
We're bringing in physical skills, hands. We're bringing in sight.
Your facial muscles.
Facial muscles. We're bringing in so many more activities. So the challenge with playing music is that we're often judged. So if we could play music without judgment, we would have this amazing ability. So I love the Native American flute. I'm just showing that on the screen now because it's an instrument that's easy to play. You just put down on it. You can make up your own music. So I call it inspirational, making up my own music, right? So inspirational music.
Everybody go to my YouTube channel, Fit Amy TV, Awakening Aphrodite, on YouTube to see this beautiful Native American flute that Dr. Oliver's holding up. Just beautiful.
It's just amazing. It's a simple instrument. It's just got a few holes on it. You don't have to play music. So inspirational type music, whatever you want to improvise. And I like spontaneity with it. So I've had people play this by looking at trees in the forest, and the highest note is the tallest tree. Oh, I'm playing the highest note, or whatever they want to do. But when this was gifted to me by a wonderful person, he goes, just go up and down. So I went, well, I could do that. And I did that and I went, gosh, it sounds like music.
Beautiful.
I'm a musician. How cool is that? I'm making music, right? So I really think playing in music, the ukulele is a great instrument for it. You can learn in just a couple days to play 2 chords and you can play music. The flute's great because you can just make it up. It's just wonderful. And this flute has opened so many doors for me around the world. It's just amazing.
I love it. That's so beautiful.
Play music.
I think that's such a good point. We're talking of the benefits of listening to music and that sound therapy and sound healing, but it's a whole nother level when then you play it, because not only because you're going from a passive where you're just receiving and listening to the music, which is beautiful, to active, you're actually participating, you're creating it, you're expressing yourself, and to our point about our discussion today, you're tapping into toning your parasympathetic vagus nerve system because you're using your facial muscles, you're blowing, you're breathing. Yes, you're doing all these different things, your diaphragm, which is on the basement of your lungs, all the things that we're saying that will increase your vagal tone, which will help balance your stress. So play instruments. And I ordered my own flute.
I do.
From Guillermo, and I can't wait. I'm getting a Native American flute sent to me. Yours is a gorgeous dark walnut. I think mine's walnut. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if he makes walnut, but he probably does.
I don't know.
Yeah, he makes so many different ones. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm so excited because it's just, to me, it's a whole nother level of my spirituality and expression. And like you, I don't know you obviously know what you're doing, but I'm going to start not knowing what I'm doing and just start.
Exactly. Just go up and down, up and down.
Yeah, up and down. I like that idea. Everybody, make sure you check out episode 19 with Dr. Oliver. The first time he was on the show, we talk about so many amazing things. He does talk about the 6 foundational principles that he developed with the CHEK Institute, that's how they train all their professionals. We go into more depth there. And he also talks about more tips for coping with stress on different topics, not the ones we talked about today. So it'll help augment what we talked about, as well as controlling anxiety. And he talks to us more about music and healing with music like we did today, but again, on some fresh new stuff. So it's a beautiful adjunct to today's discussion. Thank you so much. Do you have anything else that's really on your heart to share with folks before we say bye?
It's a pleasure. I think we covered everything. I love the rope flow. They call it rope flow. Love the music.
My new class.
Vagal. I think if people were to dive into the Polyvagal, that's what I use with my clients. Mm-hmm. I do online for clients around the world, from India to Singapore, and that's what I look at. I look at how balanced is their nervous system.
Because stress is so predominant. You've got to heal and to be healthy and have energy, you need to have a balanced nervous system.
Yep. Dynamic. One that is able to move through different phases. That's the key.
Good point. Yeah, you want to be able to turn it on when you need to turn it on and shut it off when you need to shut it off. Yeah, you are just such a gift to humanity. I'm so grateful to have you on my show again. And everybody, remember, you can work with Dr. Oliver online. He does coaching all over the world. A lot of the resources that he was so kind and generous to provide for us today will be in the show notes. If you're driving or whatever, the Polyvagal, how you spell it, Stephen Porges, all these other great resources. Play instruments. Do your breathing, control your stress, and be empowered. Dr. Oliver, anything else you want to share? Your website, your photography, anywhere else you want to direct folks?
Yeah, I have a couple websites. I have one, obviously, for my office, the centerforbalance.net. Also, drcliffoliver.com. They go to the same spot. But I also have one for photography. It's Surf Photo La Jolla. That's LAJOLLA, LaJolla.com, surfphotolajolla.com, and post photos there almost weekly of different surfing, waves, beach. Yeah. So that's basically it.
That's so beautiful. Are you still going to the laughing group? You were telling me about a...
No, not really now. They kind of stopped everybody going to parks and beaches and stuff. But I still have a lot of people involved in that. They're doing it online. I prefer in person.
Yeah.
I strongly recommend it if somebody wants to change their life. Laugh for 10 minutes in the morning before they get out of bed. Guarantee it. And look at the resistance that comes up. That resistance is keeping you from doing a lot of stuff in your life. So say, for the next 2 weeks, I'll laugh for 10 minutes before I get up. The next morning comes up. Oh, no, it's kind of hard.
Silly me. Yeah. Or whenever you think about it, like me, Miss Sticky Note, okay, it reminds me, but I love it. It's just so empowering. Dr. Oliver, thank you so much for being on Awakening Aphrodite.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you for inviting me. And I'll stay to our group.
You got it. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining in. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Would you like to support my mission to help empower people all over the world to be all of who they truly are? If so, please subscribe to the show, leave a review on iTunes, and share it with a friend. And if you're looking to take immediate action to align your energy and optimize your health, visit amyfournier.com. Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite. Let's awaken her together in you. I'm your hostess, Amy Fournier, and I already can't wait to be with you again and for you to hear what I have planned for the next show.
Thanks for listening to Awakening Aphrodite with Amy Fournier. To learn more about Amy, check out her website, amyfournier.com. That's amyfournier.com. You can also check out Amy's live and on-demand virtual fitness and yoga classes, and sign up for her newsletter to receive a free mini ebook of 3 of her top tips for making holistic health a lifestyle. Again, that's amyfournier.com, and get your ebook sent to your email immediately. Connect with Amy on the daily on Instagram at FitAmyTV, FITAMYTV, and watch many of the podcast episodes and subtopic clips on her YouTube channel, which is also FitAmyTV. Enjoy, and we'll see you next time on Awakening Aphrodite.